Thank you, Dean Holland, and a very good afternoon to you, class of 2026. Congratulations. You all have earned this day, and everyone in this room knows what it took for you to get here. The last time I stood in this hall was actually 30 years ago for the School of Music's centennial. I was, as Dean Holland mentioned, an orchestra management fellow assigned to the Grand Rapids Symphony and made the trip down to hear Adolphus Hailstork's American Guernica. I'd gotten to know the composer Adolphus Hailstork a few years earlier at the American Composers Orchestra, where I was simply the receptionist. The ACO is actually also where I corrected Dean Holland last night. The ACO is also where I met your dean. He was a young composer then on one of our new music reading sessions, and he and I were both in our early 20s. The secret was that we both looked 12. That was 30 years ago. Times were different, and we figured things out mostly alone. As Dean Holland mentioned, we met again 10 years later. I was the president of the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. Jonathan was on the faculty of Berklee College of Music and a prolific composer, and we commissioned him to write Motor City Dance Mix to celebrate the opening of the Max Fisher Music Center. And here we are now, 3 meetings, 30 years. The threads of this field run much longer than anyone will ever tell you. The room I first came to here, sitting in one of the back rows as a stranger, is the room I'm standing in today. And I'm here today to share what I learned over those 30 years about this field, about what it asks of musicians, and about what I wish I had known when I was sitting where you are today. I've had the privilege of seeing the music field from many institutional vantage points: orchestras, universities, foundations, government. And now I work in that messy space where artists and institutions are trying to build models the old system never imagined. The view is different from each angle. Each chapter showed me how this field works, but more importantly, how it fails. Some things become visible only when you look back across the rooms you've stood in. Here is what I see clearly. The field you're walking to, it was built for generations past. Past assumptions, past audiences, past definitions of what a career was supposed to be. Careers for musicians have changed shape. They look less like the careers that your teachers built. The 30-year position that ends with a retirement party and a pension, that endpoint is certainly important and worthy, but it was never the only measure of a serious musical life. Here is what we don't say clearly enough. Your opportunity is to envision a career no one has built yet. The one built from what only you can do. The one that's not limited to the constraints, expectations, and assumptions the field has names for. This is what I came to tell you. Do not accept what we give you. The music is yours. The limits are what I want you to question. Many of us made it, but too often, making it meant staying quiet when the people in charge got it wrong. We thought being grateful meant being quiet. We deferred to the people in the room with the most money because we'd been trained to. We told ourselves that it was just how the field worked. If you wanted a career, you adjust it. I myself accepted rooms I should have questioned because simply being invited in, well, that felt like a victory. I do not want that for you. Which brings me to my friend Anthony Roth Costanzo, or ARC. As many of you know, Anthony is a countertenor and the general director of Opera Philadelphia, among many, many other things. His career matters here because he did not wait for the field to make room for him. He built the room. He does not put down one thing to pick up another. It all lives in the same life. The breadth in his career is not an accident. The repertoire for a countertenor, as we know, is narrow. So is his available path. He had a choice: accept a smaller career or treat the constraint as the starting point and build something around the instrument he actually had. And that's exactly what he did. In 2018, he produced his own opera at the Barnes Foundation. He conceived it, fundraised it for it, and built the thing no institution would build for him. When the pandemic hit, with a handful of members of the New York Philharmonic, he spent that first summer bringing music to street corners and parks all across the 5 boroughs of New York in a pickup truck. The Philharmonic still runs that program. And then he took over Opera Philadelphia at a moment of real financial danger. He didn't cut the season. He cut the price of a ticket to as little as $11. Sold-out houses followed, filled with newcomers to opera. Anthony did not save the company by protecting the old model. He saved it by refusing it. He also refused to mistake the labels others gave him for his own ambitions. As my friend, the writer and scholar Imani Perry once wrote to her sons, "Do not mistake the shorthand the world gives you for the whole of who you are." Here is what I most want you to take from this. Your musical practice is not the end of your journey. It is the means. It gets you into the room. What you do once you're in that room is the life you will lead. Who you reach, what you change, how far your work will travel. You've given years to mastering your instrument or your field, and the mastery is real, and it is yours. But it is not the only destination. Dean Holland understands that, Anthony Roth Costanzo understands that, and now it belongs to you. Finding your voice is bigger than how you interpret a piece. It is bigger than your sound, than your score or your book. Your voice is the answer to a deeper question. Why this music? Why for these people? And why now? Because music changes lives through the people brave enough to carry it. Whether you compose, perform, teach, or build community around music, the calling is the same: to be the channel through which the magic, beauty, and power of music reaches a human soul. That is what music does, and you are how it gets there. I learned this myself on the presenting side. When we celebrated the centenary of the Rite of Spring at Carolina Performing Arts, I stopped trying to explain serialism and structure. I started talking about why the piece moved me, my own love of modernism, why the unknown can be difficult, why I believe discovery must be practiced, and why the Paris audience rioted in 1913. And most importantly, how long it often takes for excellence to be recognized. The audience did not need a teacher. They needed me to invite them inside something I already loved. So let me tell you why that matters to me. I spent my whole career trying to make one argument to donors, to students, to anyone who listened. There is joy in discovery. Everything else is validation. Understanding matters, but feeling is where the work finally arrives. I've stood in lobbies after concerts and watched audiences try to describe what they just heard, and the most honest ones often stop talking about the music and start talking about themselves. A memory they had not visited in years, a grief they didn't know that was still inside them. That's when I know the music reached them. That is my answer. Yours will be different, but you need one. Some of you are thrilled. Some of you are anxious. Some of you are both. That is not a failure of confidence. That is what it feels like when the map ends. Music is what you carry. Where will you take it? I'm guessing most of you are not countertenors. Many of you can already see the path. I'd encourage you to question it. When the path is clear, the assumption is that you should walk it. So many of you will follow it. You will audition for the positions that exist. You'll apply for the programs that exist. And some of you will be selected. I say take the seat, but then question why the seat looks the way it does. The audition system, the teaching post, the freelance life, the new artistic enterprise, none of it is permanent. People built it, which means people can build it differently. The constraint Anthony Roth Costanzo faced was different, But you can do the same if you choose. Decide the shape of your career on purpose, even when your training doesn't force the decision. When many doors are open, the familiar ones are the loudest. So here's the work. Pay attention to the specific shape of who you are and what you value, your gifts, your beliefs. Pay attention to the questions the standard career path will not answer for you. Build outward from there, and the career will follow. And the career you build will not only belong to you, it will shape your life, but it will also help us decide what kind of cultural life the rest of us get to have. We are watching before our eyes the Kennedy Center become a public example of how quickly a cultural commons can be narrowed by power. For more than 50 years, it stood as a national stage, and now it's being treated as territory. What's at stake is not simply a season or two. It is the record of what we have valued as a country. There is a pattern to this. When power consolidates, artists are often the first people it tries to control, because artists are the chroniclers of our humanity. They let a society see what it is living through. They let people imagine that things could be otherwise. They wouldn't bother erasing the arts if the arts didn't matter. You do not silence something that has no power. So, let this moment sharpen you. You are inheriting a field with more doors than we ever had, but with less scaffolding holding any of them up. You have more ways in, but less to stand on once you're inside. That is harder, but it's also freer. And all of this makes one thing matter more than ever. Protect your curiosity the way you protect your instrument. A word to the rest of this room, to the parents, to the families, the partners and the grandparents and the siblings and the friends who sat through the early years when the practicing was not yet beautiful, who drove to lessons in weather no one should have had to drive in, who held the door open for an art form that promises no one a steady paycheck. I spent my entire career around this field, and nothing in it happens without the people who said yes when there was no obvious reason to say so. The graduates in front of you are here because you believed in them when your belief was the entire infrastructure. So thank you. So graduates, do not inherit the limits, reimagine them. Build the music field you want, the one this moment requires, the one only you can hear and envision. And when someone tells you that you're inexperienced, too idealistic, or that you don't understand how things work, remember this, your dean and I heard that too. We just didn't have anyone standing at a podium telling us that the future often begins with people who are not yet trusted to build it. So let me say it plainly. Trust the music that brought you here. Trust the questions that will not leave you alone. And when the room gets noisy, trust the voice you have been given. Jonathan and I figured it out as we went. You will too. Your place in this field is only the beginning. You will decide what this field becomes. Class of 2026, now it belongs to you.